At CarGurus, we try to review vehicles based on how fit for purpose they are. And what I mean is that we're not going to look at a pickup truck, rave about its towing capability, and then immediately complain about how it doesn't get the fuel economy of a Prius. Our goal is to put ourselves in the buyer's shoes, in your shoes, and figure out, does the vehicle fit your needs? Are you the right buyer for this vehicle? And that makes me wonder, what in the world are we supposed to do with this? Who is the buyer for a car like this? It's, if you couldn't tell, a GMC Hummer EV SUV. It's the 3X trim. It's a 2025, and as you could definitely tell, I am not necessarily who GMC has in mind for this Hummer, but that doesn't mean it's not interesting, very interesting. And we're gonna tell you all about what it is like to drive and what it's like to live with. So don't forget to subscribe to the CarGurus YouTube channel. Let's get a better look at this. It's massive, so massive, in fact, that GMC had to add these clearance lamps because at 93.7 inches wide, it'd be illegal not to. It's also a little dirty because this is a New England winter. You can't drive anywhere without getting salt all over your vehicle. But what I meant to say is it's also heavy, like really heavy. This thing has a curb weight nearing 9,000 pounds, and you feel that every time you accelerate, every time you brake, every time you roll through a corner. And the other thing to know about that curb weight is that, well, you're not gonna be pulling this guy out of a ditch. It's got these big recovery points, but rest assured, those are for pulling someone else out, because at 9,000 pounds, there's not a non-commercial vehicle out there that could safely pull this guy. Now, our test vehicle is the Tri-Motor 3X trim. It's painted Tide Metallic, and despite the undeniably futuristic styling, it's still immediately identifiable as a Hummer, a name that stretches back to the Cold War. We have the Extreme Off-Road package, a nearly $10,000 option that adds these 18-inch wheels and mud terrain tires in place of standard 22 inchers, a full underbody skid plate, underbody cameras, front and rear locking differentials, and a set of rock rails that conveniently give me a step up into the cabin. Inside, we've got GMC's Lunar Horizon upholstery scheme, which looks very cool with the contrasting gray and black upholstery, plus these copper accents. Believe it or not, the Hummer doesn't feel that wide when you're sitting in the driver's seat, or at least when you're parked. Once you hit the accelerator, that feeling changes, especially when you realize that in some places, people are allowed to park on both sides of the street. I mean, what are they thinking? I'm driving here. All in all, the Hummer EV has a big open cabin. The seats are big, they have heat and ventilation. There's plenty of legroom up front and in the back. And just in case you need a little more of that open air feeling, all 4 of these roof panels can be pulled right off the car. They can be removed. Really cool, but it is more than cool. It's freezing outside, so I say they're staying put. Under the hood is an 11.3-inch cubic foot E-trunk, or frunk, while the rear cargo hold measures 35.9 cubic feet. Fold down the rear seats, and the Hummer EV SUV can swallow up 81.8 cubic feet. Now, for reference, that is less than a Ford Explorer. Turns out batteries take up a lot of room. Also, despite appearing massive, the Hummer EV SUV is actually kind of short, like how it stands. It stands an inch shorter than the GMC Canyon. That's a compact pickup truck. As such, and in order, I'm sure, to preserve some of the headroom, the engineers at GMC have set the seating position weirdly low. Now, you definitely get that king of the road feeling driving this car. I mean, it's big, but it doesn't give you the same level of I am the lord of the peons feeling that you get when driving a Range Rover. That said, if you buy the most powerful Range Rover, you only get a puny 606 horsepower. You buy the least powerful Hummer, you're looking at 625 horsepower. And if you buy this one, the Tri-Motor 3X trim, 830 horsepower. This Hummer is stupidly powerful. I mean that in the fun sense. You know, like, you can scare your passengers half to death without even using GMC's Watts to Freedom launch control, a ridiculous name. But I also mean it kind of in the stupid sense. Like, well, for one, for some reason, this vehicle seems to be built as much for speed as it is for work. I mean, it has a 7,500 pound towing capacity, which isn't bad, but it also means that it can get outgunned by a Chevy Colorado. Hummer should not be out-towed, outworked by a Colorado. I mean, that's a compact pickup truck. Also, in order to provide that much power and provide a competitive driving range, well, it means that the Hummer EV needs an absolutely gargantuan battery. Now, this SUV, it does have a little smaller battery than the Hummer pickup truck, but we're still talking about 170 kilowatt hours. That's really, really big. It means that refilling the battery is a massive to-do. I mean, we're talking about at least 40 minutes on a public charger, because while this can charge at a 300 kilowatt DC fast charger, finding one of those that is operating at full capacity is like finding a needle in the haystack. Realistically, you're going to be working at 200 kilowatts or less, particularly if it's as cold as it is today. So yeah, that means about 40 minutes to get just to 80% if things are going well. Now, if you plug in at home on a 240 volt home charger, the EPA says it should take a little more than 11 hours to bring the battery to full. But remember, you've got to pay for those 170 kilowatt hours. Now, with our trim's mud terrain tires, the EPA is estimating that we should have about 289 miles of driving range. And heads up, it's, 19 degrees out? We're not going to get 289 miles of range. I left home this morning and said I should have about 210 miles of range, and after 55 miles of driving, I had 102 miles of range. So I'll let the mathematicians chime in the comment section on that one, but I'm pretty sure something doesn't add up. It just makes me wonder, why wouldn't Hummer make a vehicle that is, I don't know, slightly smaller, slightly less powerful, maybe a smaller battery, something a little more economical? It's an EV after all. And well, of course, the answer is that if they did that, it wouldn't be a Hummer. So much about this car is built into the excess. I mean, that's what makes a Hummer a Hummer. It's what makes it appealing to so many buyers. This truly is a vehicle that is supposed to do the most. Now, unlike many EV SUVs, this one looks to be pretty capable off-road. It certainly has the hardware for it. The weight is a bit of a handicap, but the extreme off-road package's 35-inch wheels and locking diffs mean that this Hummer can get up and over most obstacles. It also has crab walk, sort of a gimmick in all but the most specific circumstances, and four-wheel steering, which helps in so many scenarios, from navigating tight city streets to backing into a perpendicular parking spot. There's a good amount of noise when you're driving this, particularly at speed. You get up over 50 miles an hour, you're on the highway, and you got some road noise, you definitely have some wind noise, particularly coming off of this mirror. A lot of wind noise off of that mirror. And now all EVs have to rely on a lot of cabin insulation to keep road noise and wind noise at bay, because there's no engine noise to drown it out. I mean, the powertrain is nearly silent in these vehicles. I'm just saying that given the Hummer SUV's shape and given the mud terrain tires on this one, it's playing a little shorthanded. Hummer claims 11,500 pound-feet of torque in this 3X trim, and I don't think I need to tell you there's some funny business going on with that number. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's clearly not calculated the same way the rest of the industry has agreed to calculate pound-feet of torque. I mean, we drove that Rivian R1S, which is a very similar vehicle, but it had less than a tenth of the Hummer's torque? I don't think so. So, suffice to say, how much torque does the Hummer EV have? It has a lot. That feels precise enough to me. A lot. How many torques? A lot torques. Perfect. Ultimately, the Hummer EV SUV's driving experience, it is defined by the vehicle's power and by its size. I mean, I'm about 5'10", 160-ish pounds. I wouldn't know what it feels like to be Derrick Henry, but I feel like this is what it must feel like. You're just not supposed to be this big and this fast and this nimble. And yet, with the Hummer EV, you are. You truly are. It's an awe-inspiring amount of power. It's an awe-inspiring vehicle. General Motors does a good job with tech, and its safety tech is near the top of the class. The 2025 GMC Hummer EV SUV comes standard with 3 years of Super Cruise and a long list of advanced driver assistance systems, from blind spot monitoring to rear cross traffic alert. They're all included on every trim level. We've got this digital rear view mirror too, and given the surprisingly small rear window and the big tire blocking much of the view, you'd think this would be a godsend, and it is helpful, but the Hummer's surround view camera systems are also good enough to make parking and reversing pretty easy. The 12.3-inch driver display can be configured with all sorts of different views and styles, but the 13.4-inch touchscreen is really the digital centerpiece. You have physical controls for almost all of your climate controls, plus your heated steering wheel, your locking diffs, parking sensors, and the screen itself is a really nicely designed unit as well. The graphics are unique and play to the Hummer's rugged nature, and the tech is comprehensive. Wireless charger, wireless phone projection, trailering settings, satellite radio, the Hummer does pretty much everything you could ever ask for. If there's one downfall, I'd say it's the stereo, because a 14-speaker Bose system, it just doesn't sound, it's not nice enough for a vehicle that is, well, this big, this cavernous, or this expensive. Ah, right. Price. Well, our 2025 GMC Hummer EV SUV 3X costs, just to start, about $105,000 MSRP, and that includes a $2,295 destination fee. But we also had that extreme off-road package, so our as-tested price is north of $117,000. And I can hear you saying it from the comments, Matt, the automakers always give you the most expensive versions to test. And that is generally true, but even the 2X trim, the lowest level model, it's still almost $99,000 to start. And that means that this is a six-figure SUV, putting it in the same ballpark as a top-tier Cadillac Escalade or Rivian R1S. Heck, you could even get a mid-level Porsche Cayenne for this kind of money. Even though it's definitely a niche vehicle, General Motors still apparently sells about 1,500 Hummers every month. And I'll admit, that's more than I would have guessed, but it speaks to the allure of the Hummer name. I mean, this is a halo vehicle in the truest sense. It shows us what GM's Ultium platform can be used for. It tells us just what General Motors is capable of, what they could do, even if it's not necessarily what they should do. We discussed it up front, but I'm probably not who GMC has in mind when they go about marketing this vehicle. So let's hear what you have to say down in the comments. Does the GMC Hummer EV SUV speak to you? I know it's big and I know it's brash, but I also think that's part of its appeal, part of its charm. Anyways, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time.